Hey, it's Don Skaggs again with Empowered Inventing, the one place where we try to help you help other people by taking your great innovation, the right opportunity, mixing that with sound wisdom to come up with real things like products and businesses. Now, today I want to talk to you, I want to tell you a story about a book, a bunny, and a business strategy. Now you say, Don, what does those three things have to do with each other? Well, that is this book right here. And this is a very old book from the late 19th century called The Tale of Peter Rabbit. I'm sure you've probably heard of it. It's available at almost any bookstore or library. I actually picked this up at a local library just to illustrate the point. If you can't see the book, this is it a little closer. So anyway, it was written by a lady named Beatrix Potter. And the reason I'm wanting to talk about this today is because it's a very interesting story of Beatrix and how she made this book famous. Because it's a classic. I mean, it's been around over 100 years, and again, it's still available everywhere. So how did she do that? How did she pull that off? Because she actually started just writing these little stories about these bunnies she had, and she would, I think there was some like sick children in the family or something, and she was actually talking to them and taking those stories to them, and they loved the stories. And she thought, you know, I might have something here. So she put them all together in a little children's book, and she took them around to all of these publishers. And you can quite imagine, especially in the late 1800s, how the publishers probably reacted to this lady going around saying, well, hey, I've got this great little children's book. Nobody wanted to touch it. Everybody just kind of slammed the door, didn't want anything to do with it, and just kind of passed on everywhere. Now, was she just going to be rejected and let that one gatekeeper or those handful of gatekeepers keep her from actually doing this? She didn't. And actually, this is a story that sounds more like something out of the 21st century than the 19th, and I think that's what really makes this interesting. Because she was rejected by all of these publishers, but she decided she was going to print the books and sell them herself. She went directly. She went to the direct market. These are the days there was no Amazon, there was no catalogs, there was really pretty much nothing out there in the way of doing it. But she caught on. This book became viral, if you could say that, for the 1890s. And ended up selling, and then the publishers really picked up on it and said, hey, well, this is great, well, why weren't we publishing this before? And she got her book deal, and the rest was history. So what can we learn from this? Well, there's some really good lessons here, I think. One is you need to ask yourself one question, and that's, who do you want your gatekeeper to be? Do you want it to be one person, or do you want it to be 1,000 people? And you know, I think that you really should sometimes not pay attention to the gatekeepers, because the gatekeepers, a lot of times they can be jaded. They're just one person, and early grassroots support of a product can really turn these big players around, the ones that won't let you in the beginning. If you go direct sometimes in the beginning, and you can do that grassroots support, and then a lot of times it changes the mind if you have captured the market. So some great examples of this. Dan Atkinson with the Grass Buster, and you've heard this story, I'm sure, before if you've seen some of our other videos. If not, it is a great story. One of our early in the days of my working with the Inventors Network Kentucky, Dan was one of our inventors. He went to one of these casting calls, these people with, you know, they had the gatekeepers, the guys that you met one-on-one, and they were going to decide your fate. Yes, we're going to, or no, the product dies. And the guy, he sat down with Dan, and Dan showed him his little, it was a little hand tool, cleaned out the underside of lawnmowers in less than a minute. It's actually a pretty cool product. So he sits down with this guy, and he says, no one will ever buy one of these. And of course, Dan didn't listen to that advice, and it was a good thing that he didn't, because then he went and saw distributors. He sort of got the same cold shoulder as a lot of us do when we first go out and we try to take products around. And you get a lot of no's, you get a lot of rejections. You have to be used to that, and sometimes ones will pick up, and that's good. But he decided to start selling them at this trade show. And there was this trade show that he went to, and at the trade show, the last day, it was open to the public. So you had the general public coming in, and you could actually sell product from your booth. Well, he had these 2 small lots of early products he made. I think it was like 100 in one box, maybe 200 in the other box. By 10:30 in the morning, one box was completely empty. By noon, both boxes were empty. It was all gone. He'd sold every one of them. And funny thing, all of those distributors and people that had kind of snubbed him before, and those booths around him, were all looking around, wanting to know what in the world's going on over there. There's people 3 and 4 deep, all with money in their hands. What in the world are they buying in that place? It was a game changer for him. He ended up selling through distribution, growing his business, and then eventually selling his business. So I think that's a great story that just shows you can prove your market. Joy Mangano, another one. She had a gatekeeper. If you've not seen the movie Joy, I highly recommend watching that. It's a story of Joy Mangano and her invention, the Miracle Mop. And if you've not seen it there, or if you've not seen it on our Inventor Entrepreneur Night at the movies, we may have that available online now. You might want to check that out. Anyway, there's a scene in this movie where she's talking to the mop manufacturer. Well, why don't you just make these and sell these for me? And the mop manufacturer says no. He said, no, we don't want to sell this kind of mop. He said, go home. He told her, just go home. A lot of people have great ideas. Just go home. Now, if she'd have listened to that one person, that one alleged gatekeeper, she would have never had any measure of success at all. She'd have been a home, dead-end job, and just been at home and not done anything. But she didn't, because she didn't listen to that one guy. She kept pushing until she found someone to say yes. So, if the big players won't let you in, a lot of times you can go direct. The same was true with my own company. We tried to go through distributors, and no one would give us the time of day. And we started selling directly to hospitals and labs. And it's funny, all the distributor reps then would go around to some of these hospitals, and they'd see us on the shelf. And they'd go back to their bosses, the ones that snubbed us, and said, well, what's this stuff on the shelf? Why aren't we selling this stuff? And again, it was a game changer when we got picked up by distributors and eventually sold my company. So this stuff happens. So how can you do this today, though? Well, one really cool thing that tool we have today, and we didn't have in the days of Beatrix Potter, is crowdfunding. Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Now you have to do it right. You have to have the right tools, the right strategy in place to do it correctly. But you have to have a good IP strategy. We teach those, but it can be done. You can get that grassroots support, those early adopters that really prove that you have a good product that people want to buy. Another thing is just the low barrier to entry shows, and these are the shows like I was talking about. Dan's show he went to. They're open to the public. You can actually sell a little product. Or maybe you can actually just bring in a demo type, because if it's an unproven, you don't want to build a lot of these if it's an unproven market, unless you can do a small run. But you go to a low barrier of entry show, maybe with your demo type, maybe you can take pre-orders. So pre-orders is another really good thing. What you could also do on your website, where hey, we're building this, we're making this is it, this is the product. We're taking pre-orders. If we get this many pre-orders, it's kind of like a mini Kickstarter, or like a Kickstarter on your own. So if you can touch enough people and reach enough people, then sometimes you can actually do that just via your website. Another great idea is videos. You should have a video that demonstrates this is the really, really effective way to promote your product, is have a good video. Have not a real expensive one per se, but just have a quality video that you've made that demonstrates your product. It's got a good wow moment in it, but that becomes your vehicle to get that grassroots support. Again, bypassing those jaded gatekeepers and actually finding out whether you really have a market and proving it not only to yourself but to those other people as well. So anyway, I'm Don Skaggs. I hope this was helpful for you. This is Empowered Inventing TV. Be sure and like, subscribe, click that notification bell, and I will look to see you at the next meeting, workshop, maybe one of our online classes, or on the next video.